Everybody join me next as my Auburn guest for this week is our lead writer, our fearless leader over at the Auburn Wire. That is Taylor Jones. And Taylor, appreciate you joining me once again.
Hey, good talking with you again, Phillip. And it's a lot of fun around the plains, especially through the first 2 weeks. So happy to talk about the Tigers with you.
A lot more positive after two games than was last year with Auburn because we would have been coming off the Cal loss this time last year, and Auburn had probably turned the ball over 20 times in two games, only one time so far. So it's a lot more good vibes around the program right now.
Yeah, that's right. And, coming in, like, there's not really a lot to gripe about either, which is the good thing. Of course, coming out of the Baylor game, you win by 2 touchdowns, but you look at the passing stats, you're like, oh, we have these great wide receivers. Why are we not getting them the ball more? And Jackson Arnold only has 108 yards. That's not, something that pops off the stat sheet, but they were able to make up for it a little bit last week. Jackson Arnold passes for over 200 yards. He throws for a few touchdowns. Jeremiah Cobb, makes his debut, probably going to get a lot more carries this week as well. So, and then the defense, my goodness, you can't really say, anything negative about what they've done the last couple of weeks too. And just like Auburn's offense with the passing game, their defense, the Tigers' defense, got their passing woes situated as well, and they're really going to be put to the test this week. But for the most part, Auburn's 2-0, and there's not really a lot to gripe about either. I feel like that's something we haven't had to experience or haven't experienced in the last few years. So it's very exciting to see where they're going through 2 games.
I know, and after the Baylor game, I felt like the biggest gripe was the secondary, the defensive backs. They gave up a lot of yardage to Baylor and Sawyer Robertson. But I think now you got to feel better about it because he did it again against SMU. So it's not just Auburn. Sawyer Robertson is just going to put up yardage, and they have a lot of talented receivers at Baylor. So I think that's now a thing where people could look back to that Friday night game and say, yeah, they gave up a lot of yardage, but it kind of looks like everybody's going to give up a lot of yardage to that Baylor team.
Yeah, especially what happened to Arizona State in Starkville as well over the weekend too. A lot of people thought that Arizona State was going to be the team to come back in the Big 12, but now you got to watch out for the Baylor Bears. They're going to be tough. Iowa State's going to be tough. We know Kansas State's not going to be. That's the one thing for sure in the Big 12 that's just not really doing a lot of impressing so far. But the Baylor Bears may be the team to watch, especially with the offense they put up the last 2 weeks. So yeah, we're hoping that that's the case the rest of the year. We hope that Baylor ends up with an 11-1 record because that makes the Auburn record look really good. And if Auburn does their part too, maybe that could help Auburn get into the college football playoff, knowing they got a 2-touchdown win over a team that could possibly win the Big 12. So, keep doing what you do, Sawyer Robertson. We really appreciate watching that over here.
Yeah, and the good thing about that opening win Auburn had too was it to me watching the game, maybe other than the first couple minutes when Baylor went up early and then it looked like they was about to go up with some more points and Auburn had that kind of like goal line stop there in the red zone. To me, it felt like Auburn was the better team the entire game. It's just, every time Baylor would get within a touchdown, Auburn would respond. Of course, Jackson Arnold with the response of all response is that fourth down run for a touchdown that pretty much sealed the deal. And that's just different about it. It's been a few years since you've been able to feel that way about Auburn football, that they just were the better team against another group of five team. Like even a couple of years ago when they beat Cal, when they went out to Cal, that was kind of like, okay, a survival game. They survived Cal. This one is and I'm not sitting here saying Auburn's about to go 11, 12, and 0, but 8, 9 wins now seems possible with this team. Just kind of like seeing what we've seen through these 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the quarterback. I think that Jackson Arnold, trying to find the correct words to say, but I think he's got more of a clear mind than Peyton Thorne did. Regardless if it was Peyton Thorne's doing or if he just got overwhelmed and made some questionable decisions or did some things he probably shouldn't have. Jackson Arnold, doesn't seem to do that. And we've kind of noticed too that we kind of feel like the coaching staff may have grown up too, because you heard in that post game interview with Jackson Arnold and Hugh Freeze, they both said we're really stubborn. We know that we have really good receivers, but we had to swallow our pride here and know that we were kicking Baylor's tail running the football And that's
Mhm.
what we've got to keep doing. So if the stat sheet doesn't look as great as we want it to, that doesn't necessarily tell you the whole story of the rest of the game. We saw that on that fourth down play. Jackson Arnold runs it to the left side and basically untouched to the end zone. They could have thrown it there. They could have thrown it to Eric Singleton. He could have had some speed on the edge. They could have uh, Randy Mossed it up to Cam Coleman. Probably could have had a head tap there, but they didn't do it. They saw a hole in the middle of the defense and they went right through it. So I think that's probably the two biggest things offensively is that you've got a different quarterback back there that kind of allows the offense to flow through him a little bit. And I think the coaching staff has learned a lot in the last couple of years too. That hey, you don't have to force every single thing, or you don't have to do you don't have to make status quo on fourth downs too. You can do whatever the defense gives you, and if you trust in your team, you can make it happen.
Yeah, with that though, I think there's been some Auburn fans that are they've been wanting to see, and Hugh Freeze wants this too as well, and Jackson Arnold, the big play with these receivers, because that's what talking about that. This is the strength of the team. I look at this team as the best group of wide receivers Auburn has had since the 2014, with Arunshadu, Manu, Taylor, and Mix. That's just kind of how I see it. And I think this group is deeper than that one. We just look at the talented players that we only see on the field that are there at Auburn at that position. Any concern though that we haven't really seen the big play? Eric Singleton had a couple big plays, but we haven't seen that of Cam Coleman yet. I mean, Baylor played the two high safeties, but we didn't see it at Ball State. Just any worry on that?
I'm not really sure either. Because I think there's just so much depth there at wide receiver, and I'm even guilty of this myself too. When you and I were both writing about this team over the summer, and we're thinking, oh, they're going to have Eric Singleton. He's getting a lot of buzz. Cam Coleman, of course, is getting a lot of buzz. Malcolm Simmons kind of had some trouble there, but turns out that he ended up being clear. He's now going to be a threat. We're hoping Perry Thompson and Bryce Kane makes the big jump. But the one guy that we really didn't talk about was Horatio Fields.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew he was going to come in from Wake Forest. He did a really good job at Wake Forest. Can't remember if he was the leading receiver. He was at least one or two. I can't remember which one over at Wake Forest. But he's really surprised us too. So I kind of wonder if if one or two have an off day, that means two more are going to have good days. Or maybe it's going to be a game where all 6 or 7 of them have a great game all together and there's nothing stopping them. But, it's one of those things that I kind of, chalk up. It's a little too early. We're still trying to figure out what receiver is good in what situation. Maybe something we'll see in Oklahoma in 2 weeks, something we'll see at Texas A&M, and hopefully after a bye week and a night game at Jordan-Hare, hopefully we see that as well in that game. But I still, kind of chalk it up to it being early and us just kind of figuring some stuff out. And I'm hoping in a few weeks that that prediction does come true, that things continue to develop over the next few weeks, and we're not, sitting in 6 weeks in going, man, when's this receiving core going to get it together? But I think they'll eventually get there. It's just you have so many weapons, and you're just not sure when to use them at the right time and how it all works out.
And it does feel like, and I think Hugh Freeze even acknowledged this after the game Saturday, that they were trying to force the issue a little bit in the first half Saturday against Ball State. He probably went into the game. Look, he would never mention this. You look at a team, you're better than that. You were thinking, okay, I should be able to do these things, and kind of felt like they were forcing it. I think too, because they were forcing it. Jackson Arnold, they had a couple plays there in the first half where he got sacked, lost the ball. He's holding on to it too long. Of course, we've seen the video during fall count where he throws his visor down. We get aggravated with Jackson Arnold. But in the second half, I think they weren't forcing things. Basically, went back to what they did against Baylor, just give what defense gave them. And look, and he and I was watching the game, and I didn't really realize it till they actually threw the stat up that he was 24-28. Hugh Freeze talked about on Monday in his press conference that 2 of them were throwaways. So it was an efficient overall day from Jackson Arnold. But I just did feel like they were, at times first half trying to press the issue with the receivers and trying to get the ball down the field.
Yeah, going back to that video over the summer, I remember reading the comments on X and Instagram and TikTok and whatever, and everybody's like, oh, Hugh Freeze, he's made a mistake. He doesn't like this quarterback. And the whole time I'm looking at it going, throw the ball, throw the ball. Like that was just the big thing. So like I understood Hugh Freeze's frustration there. But yeah, I think quietly Jackson Arnold became it was the third most efficient performance that an Auburn quarterback has had since 2017. That's what it was. Because I think
Mr.
Jarrett
Stidham.
Stidham threw for 86. I think he threw like right at 86%. And then Bo Nix had a game in 2021, I think, where he threw 90%. And Jackson Arnold was, I think, 85.8 was like the percentage that he had. So he ended up having a pretty efficient game. And it just kind of makes you wonder if we'll see a little bit of that this week against South Alabama and maybe a little more as SEC plays in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and and me and you talked. I felt we talked on YouTube on the show you were doing, or maybe it was here on mine. The running backs. How do you replace Jarquez Hunter? I think that was a big question. I think they've done well if they can keep them healthy. That's kind of like the issue right now is Damari Alston game time decision for Saturday against South Alabama. Darrell Robinson, which I think is a guy a lot of people think eventually could take over that lead role coming over from UConn. He apparently got a freak injury they didn't even know about till after the game on Saturday. He was bleeding on his thigh. They had to send him to Birmingham, all that stuff. So it looks like Saturday, unless Damari Alston's able to go, we're going to get a heavy dose of Jeremiah Cobb, Omar Mapson, two Auburn High players there where he was at before. But again, if they keep this group healthy, they have a lot of depth at running back, and I think replacing Jarquez Hunter is not as big as a question after 2 games as maybe we thought it was going into the season.
Yeah, the running game is just amazing through the first 2 weeks. You're speaking of Damari Alston. I think the best quote of the Baylor game came from him, and it wasn't even on the record. It was something as he was leaving the press conference: taxes, death, Auburn's going to run the football, and that is so it's so refreshing to see that because. It was almost like, like he said, death, taxes, Auburn's going to have a 1,000-yard rusher. Auburn hasn't had that in the last few years. I mean, you even think back to the 2012 game. Trey Mason went over 1,000 yards in the Alabama game, and of course, make Nick Saban mad that they were still trying to play, even though they were down by a wide margin. But Trey Mason, like even in the 2012 season, rushed for over 1,000 yards, and Jarquez only did it once. I think Tank maybe did it once in his career, and he was a multi-year starter. So it was kind of a thing that had kind of gone away from Auburn's identity for a while, too. So, yeah, the run game is doing a great job so far. Jeremiah Cobb had a career performance, and I knew that he didn't have as many carries as Jarquez or Damari coming into the year, but I was shocked at just how little he had. I think he had in his freshman year had 170 yards total, had 141 last year, had 2 touchdowns his freshman year, 0 in his sophomore year. And he's now well exceeded that. He almost reached his best season ever in one game, had 121 last week, was close to getting to that 140 that he had as a sophomore and, even better, than that 170 that he had as a freshman. So, if it's the case where he's got to carry the load again, I'm pretty confident in that. Possibility we could see a little bit more Omar Mapson, which is a kid that's, kind of like the Ryan Williams situation over at Alabama. You're going to be hearing a lot of times. He should be playing for the Auburn High Baby Tigers right now. He should be finding a date for the homecoming dance. He should be doing this. He should be doing that. And he's 17 years old, and then when A-Day comes around, if it ever becomes televised again, he should be getting ready to go to the prom. You know how it is. And
yeah,
he decided to come out a year early, go play at Auburn. And I also kind of wonder, too, with the Darrell Robinson injury and if Damari Alston's not going to be able to go this week. Of course, it's still early. We don't know if he's going to be out or not. But kind of wonder if Alvin Henderson's going to get some looks, too. That's a guy that coming in had a lot of hype around him, but just really has not jumped off in fall camp so far. And you hear Hugh Freeze talk about the running backs. He, of course, talks about Damari, talks about Jeremiah, and has really said a lot of good things about Omar Mapson. But Alvin Henderson, you just really haven't heard all that much of. So I kind of wonder if he'll get an opportunity to get some game action, and that will kind of progress his development as we go on, too. But, yeah, the running game is just phenomenal right now, and I'm excited to see where it takes the team.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it made me actually think about Alvin Henderson with this because obviously you know where I'm at in here down in
Yeah.
Dothan. So obviously I saw a lot, covered him on my high school football podcast. But last week, Hugh Freeze spoke to me. I think it was Thursday, and he was asked about Mabson, and he said, "I feel comfortable with him running the ball, but it's the other stuff." And I feel like he was alluding to pass protection.
Yeah.
And I got
Yeah.
to thinking about that with Alvin Henderson. At least with Omar Mabson at Auburn High, they do throw the ball. I mean that's part of their off. They're a balanced attack. I mean he was a big focus of their offense there, but they do throw the ball. He came from elbow where they were running that single wing offense where you may throw the ball 5 times. And there was a couple of times, Taylor, he was the one throwing the football on some trick
Mhm.
plays for them. So he's not used to pass protection at all. So I kind of wonder too. And obviously, look, I just, it is what it is. You're going from 1A football to playing in the SEC. As great and as talented as he is, that's a big adjustment too.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching Jaquez Wilkes play at Wadley High School right now. I mean, you look back at the state championship game from last year. Wadley attempted 2 passes, and both were incomplete. So it was basically Jaquez and a couple of his teammates running the ball the whole time. And watching some of the videos this week of Wadley playing Fayetteville, I mean, it was just he could probably hurt people if he wanted to, but he doesn't have to. It's just, run the ball. I'm going to run 5 miles per hour, just dodge to the left, dodge to the right, kind of like what Alvin Henderson did at Elba too. So, yeah, it's kind of an adjustment for him right now. So we'll see how well he goes. And you brought up Omar Maps, and that was the one of the things that Coach Freeze talked about in his press conference on Monday was that that's something that he's going to work with Maps and on this week, especially if he's going to get more carries and more time in the offense. Because running the football is good, but he didn't have a chance to pass block, didn't have a chance to really do anything else that running backs are supposed to do to make an offense run. So I expect that to be a point of emphasis this week, and we'll see just how much he absorbs this week at practice when the Tigers play on Saturday.
The defense, and we talked about a little bit how they, how people were, I think, maybe overreacting to the yardage that Baylor got against all defensive backs. Auburn's running defense was really good in that game. Baylor has a good starting back. I know their backup running back was out of that game, but they have ability to run the ball. I think Auburn's front's been really good. And look, yes, they're playing Ball State, but they got after their quarterback. I mean, left and right on Saturday. And we all talk about Keldrick Faulk, but Kieran Crawford, I mean, what he's doing, I mean, just he's already, I think, got more sacks this year than he did all last year. I mean,
Yeah.
he has been a monster for this Auburn defense up front, and of course, Hugh Freeze talked about that on Monday in the press conference.
Yeah, Kieran Crawford has just done a great job so far. He's been a menace on that defensive line. Another guy that has really impressed me so far, and I almost as the season goes on, I hope that he continues to play well so that I can say that the Auburn Wires and the Xavier Atkins site, it's a Xavier Atkins fan site because he is
Yeah.
he's really done well, and I think he's the product of what a change in scenery can do in the transfer portal because coming in basically had no stats, had a really good high school career, but no stats at LSU. He comes into Auburn and he's thriving immediately. And
Mm-hmm.
he's got 10 tackles, 5 in each of the last 2 games. And of the 5 that he had last week, 4 were for loss, and he had 2 sacks. So he's doing really well. And I feel like Robert Woodyard's another guy. He kind of starts off strong, and then by the end of the game, you don't really hear much about him. But Robert Woodyard has been really good at rushing the defense as well too. But gosh, I mean, the fact that we're talking about 3 really good guys and haven't mentioned Keldrick Faulk other than we knew he was going to be strong at the beginning of the year, that's dangerous, man. Because
Mm-hmm.
Keldrick Faulk's going to have a good game. He's going to have multiple good games, and he's going to have all those guys around him are going to have really good games too. So I feel like the run game, no matter how you look at it, is really going to carry Auburn football this year, regardless if you look at it from an offensive or a defensive standpoint, just because of how many guys they have that do what they do.
I feel like with Keldrick Faulk, I feel like there's going to be a game against a really good team this year that Auburn's probably not supposed to beat, that he's just going to go off and just wreck the game. I just have a feeling that's going to happen in one of these
Georgia.
weeks.
I'm calling it now, Georgia.
But I had to struggle
Night
against Austin
game,
Peay.
Jordan Hare, Georgia. That's the one.
Yeah, I mean, they got the win when Cam Newton's jersey's being retired, right?
I would hope so.
And
And then
that's long overdue. I mean, that should have been done a long time ago.
I kind of felt like, I mean, because I knew no one had worn it since he graduated, but I kind of felt that it was coming when the whole very, very small drama. I think if this had happened during the season, no one would care. If it happened during basketball season, no one would care. But it happened over the summer. Deuce Knight comes in. His name's Deuce, so you would think, oh, we should give him number 2. And Cam Newton's like, no, he's not going to do it. And they're like, it's coming. You kind of felt that was the writing on the wall there. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. Cam Newton's going to be there. And I think the Alabama game, they're going to do like a special tribute to Bo Jackson too. And you can't lose that one either. No way.
Which I'm going to call it now. I think Auburn's beating Alabama this year.
By how much, though?
I don't think Auburn fans care how much. I think they're just going to be happy to get a win over them and not have it fall apart. I keep bringing this up to people. The last 2 times Alabama's come to Jordan-Hare, Auburn should have won.
Right.
If Tank Bisbee does not run out of bounds, Auburn wins. But then again, that was probably good because Harsin may have got a little bit extra rope and kept his job a little bit longer. And then, of course, the Gravedigger, Jalen Milroe, Auburn should have won that one. So the last 2 times, Auburn is due in this at Jordan-Hare to get Alabama. And what we've seen from Kalen DeBoer, he can't win on the road. Everybody and all these Alabama fans excited about 73-0. It's losing them in a row. And I don't care if they beat Wisconsin 73-0 until you go on the road, and you do on September 27th to Athens and win a big game on the road. That's my thing. And at Missouri, at South Carolina, I don't mean to make this a trashing Alabama podcast, but and then they're at Auburn. I mean, I think they probably could win at Missouri, but that's not going to be easy at South Carolina. And then having to come to Auburn, I mean, until he proves he can take that team and beat a really good team on the road, I'm just like, just get away from me with this 73-0 against Louisiana.
I honestly think the 73-0 performance was a obscene gesture to the Alabama fan base. I think that's exactly what it was, where it's like DeBoer needs to be fired. And I've got to give Alabama fans credit. I have never thought about how many creative ways you could use his name. He is, we need to detour. We need to show him D-door. Like I've seen so many puns with his name. I'm like, man, there's just so many I need to just lock in my pocket for other days. But I think that was a read between the lines moment, I guess, from him, where it's like, y'all are talking junk about me. Fine. We're going to take it out on Bryant Vincent and the Warhawks just to show you that I can still coach a doggone football game. What's that going to do the rest of the year? I don't know. But I saw that final score and was like, that was a sticking it to him kind of a game right there. That was not I feel like if that weren't the case, it probably would have been 52-0 or 49-3 or something like that. But it was like, I'm proving to you guys that we're still a good team. Don't count us out. But
conspiracy theory on that. Another reason why they did the blowout. I wonder if the higher ups at the university said, look, we were mad that UAB came back a few years ago. This man used to coach at UAB. Blow him out. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, everybody. That's just
a lot. Even though ULM lost 73-0 to Bama, UAB fans still want Bryant Vincent there. Don't get it twisted. I think
they don't want Trent Dilfer.
No, obviously not. There's a coach that's in the area of high school that I cover. He played tight end at UAB under Watson Brown back in the early days of the program, and I just kind of asked him about it. I said, just kind of what's your thoughts and everything going there? He said Trent Dilfer is the worst thing that the University of Alabama at Birmingham has ever done, and he said that's above shutting down the program. So it's pretty bad.
And I've always been a fan of Trent Dilfer as an analyst, and he obviously did go as a high school football coach, Hank Brown. Yeah. I mean, I see when Hank Brown entered portal, I thought for sure he was going to UAB.
I would have put money on it if I were a betting man that he was going to be at UAB, but
I was surprised. I've been surprised that he hasn't been more successful. I just figured he was a good coach, but anyways, we kind of went off a little bit on a tangent.
One more thing about Trent Dilfer, and it's kind of goes back to when I was a producer for a sports talk show back in the day. This was over 10 years ago. There was a guy that would call in and he would speak to me for like 10 minutes before he even went on the air. Like he just loved to talk and would say things off the air. He would say it would be like any kind of situation where it's like you're saying that this is better than this is better because of this. And the thing that he said was that's just like saying that Trent Dilfer is a better quarterback than Dan Marino because Trent has a Super Bowl ring. I
Think
find
about that.
myself saying that in just random situations, like, "Oh, you're telling me that this is this because of this? That's just like Trent Dilfer's better than Dan Marino because he has a ring."
And think about that. Aaron Rodgers and Trent Dilfer had the same amount of Super Bowl rings.
Ooh, that's true.
And Packer fan over here, so that's another thing.
Ooh,
But I will give Dilfer this. I've heard him go on shows and talking about like quarterbacks winning Super Bowls. He will admit, that he knows he's probably the worst quarterback to ever win a Super
probably.
Bowl.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it is kind of funny, but we'll see. I guess we can mark this segment as the UAB talk of the podcast.
Yeah, there you go. We, uh,
Fan
we we don't
Alabama.
discriminate here on the show.
Yeah, well, what my little comments about Alabama, I'm sure. Hey, the revamped podcast on Auburn podcast, I sure enough wanted to put that stamp on this show on the first one. Oh, so obviously playing South Alabama, and everybody knows me. I'm going to Troy. I'm just going to leave it at that. They're playing South. Looking at it, they're 1-1. They hung with a good Tulane team. John
They did.
Sumrall has a really good. I think he's going to land somewhere big after this year. Sumrall. That's just my thoughts. He is just wins. And I think undefeated against South again. Beat them while he was at Troy. But looking at them, they have given up in their two games 211 yards per game on the ground. We talked about the Auburn running backs. We don't know who's going to be there, but Jeremiah Cobb, Mapson, maybe Alvin Henderson. And then you throw Jackson Arnold in there. Feel like once again we're going to have another game where Auburn's just going to eat it up on the ground.
Yeah, that's the big thing that I look at immediately. It's going to be the run game, and just like I said a couple of minutes ago, the run game is going to be the difference in the game. Whether you look at it on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, the run game is going to decide this game because the passing game is going to do what it does. But when you really look at the stat sheet, you're going to look and be like, yeah, that run game is really going to be the difference. So that's immediately the first thing that jumped off to me reading the stats this morning. Preparing for the game and preparing for the week is that the run game is going to tell the story once again for the Auburn Tigers this week.
And then finally, out of football, big news last week. Bruce Pearl went on the podcast with John Rothstein and made a little news. I think had we not been in football season, this would have been even bigger than it was. But obviously, he was asked how much longer he's going to do this, coach at Auburn. And he said not too long. I think he was also on Feinbaum and said he has 5 years left on his contract. He doesn't foresee that he may not coach all of them, which I think it's the worst unkept secret out there is that Stephen Pearl's. I think everybody feels like he's going to be the next coach at Auburn when Bruce does retire. How much longer do you think Bruce is going to be coach? Because honestly, after last year would have been a good exit, get to the Final Four, and I kind of wonder he has political aspirations. We talked off air. Maybe he's going on the Tommy Tuberville trajectory of things, and maybe if this team has
I've never said I'm going to be in politics. I've never said that.
You never said you are. You never said you're not. But you the things you are talking about on your social media and everything. We're not going to get into all that. Just trust me.
Yeah,
that is not this show. Go check out Clay
we
Travis.
we only hate on UAB and Alabama on this show, not
yes.
anything
We don't
else.
we don't do the other stuff. But I would just wonder if, say, Auburn has a really good year this year with this team. Of course, look, it's going to be interesting beginning of the year with this Auburn basketball team. Just so many new players outside of Tahai Pettiford. Another successful year, maybe a year or two. I mean, you kind of could see maybe he steps away. What do you think?
Yeah, I would think so too. And he kind of mentioned a little bit. I can't remember if it was on the Rothstein podcast or if it was at the speaking engagement that he was at, where he also talked about it. He said he wants to go out on top. And so I think, you want to go out on the top of your game, which is a respectful thing. You don't want to, kind of be in a situation where you're just not as good as you once were and people are beating up on you, which I kind of feel like I know Mike Gundy hasn't, won anything like the Nick Sabans of the world have or anything, but I kind of feel like that's where he's at right now. He's been at Oklahoma or Oklahoma State for ages, and he's won some
since he
big
was 40.
games. Yeah, at least probably a little bit before that. I'm waiting on the I'm a Man, I'm 60 that should be coming out in the
Not
next
to
few
cut you
years.
off, he was the guy that replaced Les Miles.
Ooh,
That's how long he's been at Oklahoma
dang.
State.
Speaking of guys that dwindled, Les Miles, but yeah, you don't want to be in a situation where you're winning key games and you're in national championship talks, you're in conference championship talks, and then you get 69 dropped on you in Eugene. You don't want that situation. You don't want the Vanderbilts and the Missouris and all to catch up with you. You want to kind of go out when you're still thumping them on the nose. So yeah, I would say probably another year or two, as long as Auburn's still doing well, and either Stephen Pearl or Mike Burgermaster, I think would be another guy that could come in and run the program. He's going to run the program somewhere. I just don't know where. Those are two guys. I kind of feel like if he's like, okay, once I feel that you're ready, Stephen, I'm handing you the keys. But I'm hoping we at least get 2 more years out of Bruce Pearl. I don't want this high that we're on right now to just drop out of nowhere.
It just feels like they're preparing Stephen Pearl for it because of all the media things. He's doing a lot of media stuff I think that Bruce Pearl used to do, radio hits and stuff like that. I kind of wonder if Bruce Pearl and just Auburn overall is trying to prepare him to be that.
Yeah, and he handles the media thing very well. Do you remember the post game interview with Andy Burcham after the Alabama State game in round one?
I think that lit a fire into
Yeah,
that team.
it did, and I'm glad that they got the message because dropping one to Creighton like that would have been brutal. But yeah, I think I kind of see your point there. I think that he is kind of grooming Stephen for that position, and we could see another Pearl at the head coaching job in the next few years.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But of course, we got South Alabama coming to Jordan Hare on Saturday, 11:45, SEC Network. I'll be there in the stands as a fan. Taylor will be there covering it. But Taylor, where can people find you if you want to check out all your work?
You can check us out at auburnwire.usatoday.com. Of course, game days every week is busy. We've got it kicked off right now with early betting odds, early predictions. Auburn's in the AP poll for the first time since 2021. That's another stat that just makes me sick. It's been that long, but thankfully Auburn is there. And then we'll have some comments from Bruce Pearl, Freeze during the week. Maybe Bruce Pearl too, if he decides to do something noteworthy this week. But we'll have that. We'll have a behind enemy lines feature coming out this week. Going to be talking with the voice of the Jags, JT Crabtree,
who's coming up next on this podcast.
Yeah, there you go. He's double dipping with the Auburn Wire this week. Of course, we'll have in-game coverage too. And then on Sunday, we get to look forward to Phillip's column that he's writing on Sunday, giving his post-game thoughts. Great stuff from him on the run game on Sunday. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to go back and watch that as well. But yeah, anything going on Auburn and South Alabama, auburnwire.usatoday.com is your place to go. Follow us on social media on Facebook at The Auburn Wire and at The Auburn Wire on X as well.
All right, everybody, go check Taylor out. Check out all our work over at The Auburn Wire. And also don't forget about our guy, Brian, too. He got some great stuff, too. But Taylor, appreciate you coming on the first episode of the revamped version of the show, being more Auburn focused. But I appreciate it. It was all fun.
Hey, we appreciate you, Phillip, and we'll talk to you down the road.